Hello, dear friends. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Oh my gosh, the weather is it's pretty nice. It was calling for rain, which it might later this afternoon. But anyways, it's nice out. It's not raining. Up for a nice little paddle board. And I was just thinking, again, a little life's analogies. I wish I had my sunglasses out here, so I'm not squinting. But I was just thinking, as we paddle out, it's a little bit different than surfing, obviously, but kind of the same idea in terms of, balance and whatnot. And sometimes I find with swimming or surfing or paddle boarding, if it's really wavy, sometimes you need to go out further into the water to have more calmer waters. And sometimes you'd think that would be the opposite. Perhaps sometimes the waves get bigger and bigger as you go out, but sometimes it's not like that. And so it's interesting how sometimes we need to go out further to reach calmer waters, which you can totally associate that with things in your life. And another thing I was thinking about is sometimes there's areas where there's more waves than other areas. So again, it's not about like the distance or how close into the shore you are, it's that specific space. The reason being is if there's a shoal or like a sandbank, that can create waves to be happening. So it's interesting. I was paddleboarding and kind of making my way out, but I was just thinking, how often do people stick around in places in life, whether it's in certain belief systems, thought patterns, places that they're not happy in, around certain people, but they still stick in it. It's like the waves are choppy there, but they still try to keep their balance in those situations, when really all you have to do is move to a different place, move to an area that is more calmer waters. I always find when I'm out in the water or anything, like you might have seen my video I've done on snowboard analogies, skiing analogies, and I always find when I'm out in nature, I always can see how we can relate it so much and how we show up in the world and how we can see and perceive things and how we react to them. Woo! That was a fun wave. And so as I was paddling, there was quite some big waves. I am trying to keep somewhat of a balance. Here's a little. Woo! It's kind of fun. I do have my keys. I normally bring a Ziploc bag to keep my keys and stuff in, and I totally forgot to do that today. So I want to make sure that I end up getting on shore with my keys this morning. So, but what I was thinking was, there was moments when I was paddleboarding out and a big wave was coming, a little bit bigger than the one you just saw. And I was, there's always this little moment of like, a little bit of nervousness, anxiousness, but how we can have our self-talk and tell us a lot about how we take care of ourselves, how we show up in the world. Like if we're always afraid of everything, then we're probably doing that in so many other areas in our life. And so I was really trying to shift my self-talk instead of getting freaked out, telling myself, you can do this. And I can do this. I've surfed, I've snowboarded, I've paddleboarded, I've wiped out on all of them before, but I've always gotten up. So, I'm wearing a little bit more clothing than I normally do just because it was a bit chillier today, but I did change out of my hoodie because I was like, if I'm going to fall, I don't want my hoodie all wet. So I changed to something I wouldn't mind if I got wet in. But as I was going on these waves, it was just kind of telling myself, like, it's okay, you can do it. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because if you're about to embark in something that's outside of your comfort zone, it's okay. You've gone outside your comfort zone with so many other things in life, and you're still here. You've done it, right? So you can do it, and it might be a little bit scary sometimes, but and the other thing I was thinking with the waves, it's like, they all have their own rhythm. Like no matter which wave you go over, it's not going to be the same exact feeling. For example, on a paddleboarding, like there's certain things you want to do, like have your knees slightly bended or core engaged to make it a little bit more stable. But going over each and every wave is going to be a bit different than than everyone. And so there's similarities, just because kind of like how humans are similar to one another, but yet every human has their own flavor, their own kind of personality and characteristic trait. And the same thing with the waves. So it's like just moving with emotion. And there's this song that I love. I've quoted this line from the song numerous times over the many years. But there's this one line that I love is, ride the waves and don't ask where they go. Ride the waves and don't ask. Is that what it is? Ride the waves and don't ask where they go. Yeah, and I love that, especially for someone who's trying to let go of control and surrender a lot more. It's something I have to remind myself, right? And there's this post I put up the other day. Someone also posted, I shared it. And I loved it. It was like, it asked, are you an overthinker? And then it had these bullet points of if you're an overthinker. And some of them is you have a hard time sleeping at night. You ruminate a lot. You have a hard time letting go of the past because you're always thinking things. Indecisive, which is very interesting because I've never looked at indecisiveness from that light before, but it makes a lot of sense. Someone who thinks a lot, of course, would be indecisive, because someone who doesn't, right? Then they're just like, yes, no, that's it. Like there's no other thinking to it. Someone who thinks a lot, it's like, well, if I go with this, then there could be that, then this and that and that. But if I go with that, this and that, you know what I mean? And so there's a friend I was hanging out with. Who was I hanging out with not too long ago? Oh yeah, okay. One of my girlfriends. And she's like, oh, I never think like that. Like she wouldn't think all these things. Whereas for me, it's like I can't help but think that way. I didn't even know it's possible for people not to. Like, it's so interesting how us humans are so different from one another. But to wrap this up, just because I really don't want to get my phone wet, when I was on those waves, each one came, when there was a bigger one, I was like, you can do it. You did all the other ones before, and if you fall, it's okay. And so I went over so many of them, and then eventually when I lost my footing and fell in, which is fine, the water is actually really beautiful. It's like, oh, you think it would have that cold little sharp edge to it, but it's not. It's actually quite warm. I'm gonna head into the beach now and take off my clothes. I only wear my bathing suit bottoms, but so I'll just wear those in and go for an actual nice dip. And I will see you all later. Woo! All right, happy weekend, everybody.